What's good, y'all? It's your boy Mike B, and this is the Bridging the Gap podcast, Mike B's Thoughts segment. Whoo, man, we finally here, man. I don't know if y'all seen the last episode, but y'all definitely need to check that out, especially if you've battled or struggled with going to church, continuing to go to church, or not going to church. We hit on a lot of topics on that, but this segment is going to be geared towards me expressing my thoughts. The Bridging the Gap podcast is created for me to be an unbiased viewpoint to try to come in an understanding with two different topics. But the Mike segment, these are my opinions. These are my thoughts. And I ain't no preacher. Let me make that known, y'all. Let me make that known. I just say what God tells me to say. But today, after I left service, I had a conversation with Pastor Jermaine Bowman, pastor that I play keys for. And I told him, man, I said, man, there are a lot of reasons why people aren't going to church anymore. But one of the main reasons are the lack of leadership from the men. And I try to view things from a broad perspective. I never view things from the surface. I try to really always dig deep in when I try to view things. And I was talking to Jordan, my fiance, getting married soon. But talking to Jordan, and we were discussing Sarah Jakes. And I told her, I said, women have always been capable of leading, of preaching, of teaching. They've always been capable of doing these things, but if you look in the Bible, it's not a lot of them doing it. You know, you have a few people, but there's not a lot of them doing it. And I said, well, it seems like today we have more powerful women than we've ever had, and we've got more leaders than we've ever had, and we've got more shepherds than we've ever had that are women. And you know what presidents, all these people. But you know what he told me? He said, because the men suck right now in the leadership format. There aren't many great leaders right now. And even if they're great preachers, even if they're great teachers, they don't know how to lead a flock. So I said, well, God, break it down to me. He said, David, let's use David as an example. He said, David was a man who was a very imperfect man. He was not perfect, far from perfect, but he listened to God. He took instruction. I said, okay, continue. He said, I gave man instruction and responsibility when I created this earth. I said, okay. And he said, what you gave women? He said, I gave women influence. Both of those things go hand in hand. They are both as equal important. They're both equal important, right? Where you have responsibility. This is why the fall didn't happen until Adam partook in eating the tree of life, whatever that is. Until Adam partook in that, there was no great fall. It was when Adam disobeyed God's instructions. So I said, okay, but he did that with Eve's influence. You know what I'm saying? So the influence of women are so important, and the instructions that God gives men are very important, which means we have to be great leaders. Women were created to crave someone leading them. And leadership does not mean telling you what to do, does not mean any of that. No. But there was something that God put in us as men to want to lead, even since we were kids. You think about it, when you were a kid, naturally, when the girls were with you, you were the protector. You were these things naturally. These were the things, they naturally followed you. That was a natural thing. We were not taught that. That was something, as a man, it naturally, took in you. Now, of course, there are some men who have different, but I'm talking about the men in high power seats right now. The men in high power seats are not being great leaders. They're great prayers, they're great preachers, they're great teachers, but they are not great leaders. A lot of them are immature, and I'm talking about being a man right now. I'm taking away spirituality for a second. Let's talk about being a man. A lot of them are immature. We got all these preachers with a lot of podcasts just venting. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with venting, but you have to vent with solution when you're a man. You can't just vent and just talk and just be sad. Men, we are not built like that. I understand this new day era of us saying we have to process our emotions and da 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 da. This is very true. We do have to process our emotions. We have to. We have to learn how to do that healthy. But within process, there has to be progress. We cannot just be venting. We have to literally find solutions. That's why this Bridging the Gap podcast is not going to be me just talking about how I feel men are like this and women are like that. No, we are going to find solutions with all of this. So back to my main point, I feel like we have a lot of men in high leadership seats who are not proper leaders. They're great worship leaders. But they can only operate at a high level in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? They can only operate, they're only wise when they're in the spirit. And I know we should be in the spirit all day, but naturally we're not in the spirit all day. Naturally, we dwell in his presence all day, right? But I'm saying when you're activated, most of these worship leaders, most of these preachers, most of these people in these high positions, even let's talk about politicians. Let's get all of that. Let's put all of the men in these high power seats. It's time for us to talk, right? You can't be a great politician when you're just in office, when you're just at work. You can't be a great politician when you're just at the courthouse, right? Or when you're just lobbying, or when you have to add that to the other parts of your life. Being a politician is more than the politicking aspect. It has to be a heart part of, you have to really care about people to be an elected official. Let's talk about the high powers for a second, right? Politicians, preachers, worship leaders, the list goes on, right? The high power men. Let's chat, fellas. Let's chat. It's our time to chat, right? Let's start off with the politicians. Let's start with because I don't want to be too deep hard on the church people, right? Let's start on politicians because this is about leadership. This ain't just about church. This is about men and leadership with this world right now. As an elected official, you have to care about people. You cannot just have this job and do your job while you're there. You have to have another part of you that when you aren't there, it's natural for you to serve people. I don't think you should be an elected official unless you are a servant of man, period. A cop. You should not be a cop unless you are a servant of man outside of you being a cop. So now let's talk about preachers, worship leaders, and all this. If you are only mature, wise, and make great decisions when you're operating with your gift to God, whether that be preaching, singing, whether that be ushering, whatever you do in the church, you got to reconsider some things. A lot of preachers now, they've learned how to preach, but they're not natural born teachers, right? So a lot of preachers from back in the day, I would say, they'll give you advice on a lot of stuff in life because they were equipped, and they were equipped men. They were teachers. They were shepherds. They were leaders. Y'all have perfected preaching, singing, leading worship, and it makes you look like a great man of God. But I don't mean to let you down. And you don't cheat. You don't lie often. You're good people, really good people. But let me tell you something. David was a murderer. And I didn't say murderer because that's the furthest you can kind of go. You know, I think once you kill somebody, that's just like, oh my God. I know they say no sin is greater than other, but like murder is crazy, right? But the reason why David had so much favor was because he followed instructions. We have a lot of anointed men, very anointed, but weak-minded. We have a lot of anointed men in the kingdom right now. Very anointed, but immature. We have a lot of anointed men, very anointed, but don't know how to do anything outside of their gift to God. If right now we were to lose all churches If right now we were to lose all streams, everything, right? As a man, as an individual, what would you be right now? And if we have preachers, my grandfather drove a bus. I don't know how long. Everyone always talks about Reverend Brown driving a bus. He did that and managed a church for preaching over 30 years, right? If Bernard Brown, my grandfather, was not a preacher, he still helped kids every day on a bus. You get what I'm saying? So we have to start applying, we have to apply that, the spiritual aspect of our lives, to our natural lives. Because the women, whether they know it or not, they crave leadership. But also they naturally go into survival mode when they don't have it. So we got a lot of, I'm not going to apologize, but I can say this. I've been hard on a lot of the ladies coming up today because I understand the influence aspect, and that's what God showed me first. He showed me that the ladies influence the world. That's what I saw first. I saw their influence. I saw that if they say something, it goes, period. If women as a collective agree to something, that's what it's going to be. Men, we going to just follow suit, right? We just be put in these positions. God puts us in position to lead, to shepherd. He gives us instruction, but y'all influence us to make the right decisions. If we don't have your influence, we're going to fall apart. And if they don't have our instructions, they won't know how to influence the world. We need each other. You know what I'm saying? And mind you, this is not me trying to attack the men of God in the church, but God laid it heavy on my heart, man, that we need more men to stand up. We need more leaders. We don't need more preachers. We don't need more slogans. We need more leaders. There were preachers who couldn't preach half of the stuff y'all can preach. Y'all fancy now, but they had a flock who trusted them. The people don't trust the men anymore. The men don't trust the men. If the world was to go into chaos right now, how much of y'all would be safe? How much of y'all would even know what to do? We have to get back to being men. We have to get back to forget all that feminine stuff. Forget it. And I'm not feminine, feminist stuff. Telling us that, being a man does not mean being hard. Being a man does not mean you can't cry. Being a man does not mean you can't complain. It don't mean none of that. Being a man means you follow instructions. You stand on what you believe and you move that way. No matter how much Eve influenced Adam to bite into the tree of life, God clearly expected him to do otherwise. The first thing God gave man was responsibility. He gave him responsibility to name the animals. That was the first thing he gave man. Eve's first assignment was to deny temptation. That was one of her first assignments, was to deny temptation. So y'all see where this is going? The temptation comes after women heavy. And I'm not saying it don't come after men. I'm not saying it don't. But I can say this. A lot of men are very tempted, more tempted by women than women are tempted by men. I'll say that. Y'all naturally have something about y'all that, other than your body parts, that God gave you that's just so tempting. You have a very sweet, and it's not a bad thing. It's very tempting, right? But Satan knows that. So he's going to attack the woman when it comes to seduction and tempting. And he's going to send her to influence the man. Because if she influences him, he now loses suit of the instruction that God gave him. Get what I'm saying? So even right now, I hate to say it like this, but right now our women they have been influenced by a lot of different things. Us wanting different things in videos and all sorts of different things. They've been influenced by a lot of stuff, but it's not too late because we have to now step up as leaders. And that means even rejecting them. If you know you ain't supposed to be doing this and she want to do it, teach her that she ain't supposed to be doing it. Show her that that's not right. That's the only way. And if she be bad or call you gay or whatever you do, no. You have to show her your self-value as a man. When you show her your value as a man, she will see it. Because we don't value ourselves. We're not taught to value ourselves, any of that. We're taught to go sow our oats. We're taught to be a man. We're taught to get everything you can. And the more bodies you got, the more of a man you are. That's literally that's the natural instinct of what a man is taught to be, right? But with that being said, we have now lowered the value of what we are and what we can and can't do. It's to the point where we're looked at crazy if we reject sex. But if a woman rejects sex, she's praised. You know what I'm saying? We have to build ourselves. We got to know who we are. We got to know who we are, and then we can lead them. Then we can lead ourselves. I'm telling you, they will follow us. Our women will follow us. We have to become men again. We gotta dig into our manhood, man. And I'm not saying, so what, you a good preacher? So what, you a great prayer? Women can pray too, and they're telling us they can preach. And I'm not saying women can't lead, but women would rather be led. They would rather be led. This does not mean that all women are like this. Hear me, y'all. Don't start attacking me. But I'm saying women would rather be led by a man who's following instructions. Specifically women of God. They naturally, they want to submit. They want to. Even if they don't think they want to, they want to. But you gotta give them a reason to. And I know that it's kind of unfair because it's like, you gotta work hard, but hey, woe is me, you're a man. He created man first, and that's just our responsibility. Thank you for tuning into the first episode of Mike's Thoughts, the segment of Bridging the Gap that you've all been waiting for. Now, this one is more of my opinion, like I said, man. Bridging the Gap is finding solutions to issues between two or more people who have controversial topics and things we gotta find solutions on as a people. But this segment is more so about my opinion, my thoughts. So y'all be ready for this one more often. I hope you caught the last episode. It was about loving God and attending church versus loving God and no longer attending church. Is it more helpful or does it hurt you? Make sure you watch that episode. But this next episode that's going to take place is going to be about marriage, a topic that we all really got to talk about. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people say it ain't worth it these days. A lot of people say it's too expensive to be married. A lot of people say you're better off alone. A lot of people say you're better off with a partner. We are going to discuss that on the next episode of Bridging the Gap. I got two beautiful, intelligent, heart of gold speakers. Heart of gold. They both have great opinions, and I'm just excited to hear about it. But I will catch y'all on the next episode of Bridging the Gap. Make sure you share, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We out here. Y'all ready to grow? You already know what it is. Peace.